Well, breaking news, folks. The system that millions of people, retirees, the elderly, better known as Social Security, many people are currently depending on, to the tune of millions and millions of people, actually just recently got hit with one of the biggest changes in decades. And it's wild how they're making all these changes with Social Security, and the media, the mainstream media, just wants everyone to panic and freak out. They want people to just, lose their minds, or at least it seems that way. And you guys let me know if you agree or disagree. By the way, if you're able to hear me, just drop a quick yes in the comments down below, guys. The media wants us to panic, but I don't want my audience to panic. So guys, do not panic when you get this, when you hear this information, okay? Do not panic. This is information, and this is just a community awareness bit of information I'm going to share with you guys. I do not want you guys to panic, okay? Everybody calm down, okay? And if you're new here, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you guys join our community here. So, sure, the media wants us to panic over Social Security, but I'm going to show you guys the real reason why all of this is happening and why it might actually be a blessing in disguise. The Social Security Administration, also known as the SSA, has been basically rocked. Massive staffing cuts. Everybody's getting fired or laid off. The phone lines are getting cut. Retirees are getting forced to drive hours upon hours into towns just to get basic help. And some people, if they're qualifying for SSDI or maybe SSI, a lot of those folks oftentimes don't even have the transportation needed to get to these offices. And so, it's all currently happening under some bold leadership decisions of President Trump and Elon Musk's efficiency crackdown team known as Doge. Now, before you guys let these mainstream media headlines from CNN and ABC News and NBC News freak you out, I want to give you guys the real heads up on what's really going on behind the scenes, because some people are saying, some of these news outlets are saying that this is reckless downsizing of the Social Security Administration, or maybe it's the start of a long overdue fix to a broken, bloated system. And I actually think it's the latter. Now, stick with me, guys, because in just a minute, we're going to dive into why these changes are being made right now. Big changes to Social Security. Who's really at risk of losing benefits? And, of course, the hidden plan that President Trump and Elon Musk might be setting into motion in order to save Social Security before it collapses in 2023. Now, guys, this is not just politics. This is your future. This is your parents' future. This is your retirement, your paycheck. If you think you can ignore this, you're already behind. So do not ignore this. Everyone pay attention, okay? You've paid into the system. Do you think that this is an entitlement program? Do you pay into entitlement programs? I don't think so. So how in the world could this be an entitlement program? Well, guys, let's break it all down, because what you don't know about these Social Security changes could change everything, and it could cost you everything. All right, so what exactly is happening with Social Security right now, right? Well, what we need to talk about is we need to start with what everyone's feeling and what the media won't stop screaming about. Social Security today is under intense scrutiny. The system is getting blamed by the press and flooded with complaints from frustrated Americans. Now, comment down below if you got your check and everything's okay, because I know a lot of people are doing just fine, but there are some people who are going to get hit with this, okay? The system's getting slammed, but the question is why? Well, the reason is because it's buckling from the inside out. And we're seeing the widespread Social Security service breakdowns, lines going all the way around the building, websites crashing, benefits getting delayed. The very system that was meant to serve millions of disabled Americans and retirees is now cracking under pressure. But here's the wild part. This didn't just happen, guys. It's actually been coming for years now. But now the Trump team, and yes, Elon Musk and the Doge team, are finally doing what no administration dared to do before. They are tearing the whole thing, the whole system down, and they're prepared to rebuild it from the ground up. And I honestly think that this could be amazing. This could actually be, as we discussed earlier, a blessing in disguise. Now, The Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, created under President Trump, is now actively reshaping how Social Security operates. And under the direction of Elon Musk, the same visionary who revolutionized Tesla and SpaceX, and he's got some other companies I forgot about. But anyway, he even re-envisioned the internet. So they have made one of the boldest moves in modern administrative history. In fact, they cut 14% of the SSA workforce. Guys, we're talking 7,000 employees gone. Now, this is why the SSA, the Social Security Administration, reports are coming out that they may actually be getting sued for how many people got laid off or fired. Because most of the staff, and this is what they won't tell you guys, most of the staff was buried in this bloated bureaucratic nonsense, holding back the modernization of the system that desperately needs to be updated. So these, in my opinion, I don't think that these were reckless layoffs as the media is trying to make us think. These are strategic eliminations, making room for automation, virtual access, and smarter delivery, service delivery that meets today's needs, not the 1970s expectations. Now, let me hit you with a stat. Did you guys know that the SSA is at its smallest size in over 50 years? Now, this is not a crisis. This is a cleanup, guys. And remember, money that the Doge team saves, 20% of that's supposed to go back to the American people in the form of a Doge dividend refund check. Remember the $5,000 Doge dividend refund check that we were all promised? Well, this goes toward that fund. So I don't know if this is really a crisis or is it more of a cleanup. And yes, one of the more boldest parts of this move, they eliminated phone service for retirees. Now, some people say that this sounds harsh, and I get it, but you might think that way until you understand why they did it. Because those 80,000 new retirees every week are now being directed to field offices for in-person support. Now, this is where Elon Musk's tech-forward Doge blueprint is being implemented. Now, I want you guys to think about artificial intelligence, AI appointment systems. Think about some of these smart technology digital kiosks. They're streamlining their ID verification. So it's not just about cutting help. It's actually hopefully going to make people be able to get the help that they need faster, right? So the mainstream press, they're absolutely losing their minds about this. But this is how disruption works. Now, here's something that I think will save you some time and some stress. I found Chapter to be hands down the best for Medicare, the best help for Medicare. So whether you're already on Medicare right now, maybe you're turning 65 soon, these Chapter experts, they are ready and willing to help you, to walk you through everything, guys. I know Medicare is complicated. They're going to make sure your doctors are covered. They're exploring every plan, every local plan, and they're checking to see if you qualify for extra benefits. Now, they research every plan in your area, and guess what, guys? The average person working with Chapter saves $1,100 a year. But it gets better. It's 100% free. There's no pressure. There's no gimmicks. All you got to do is call their phone number. I'll leave a link in the description down below, and their phone number. Their phone number is 909-563-8279. Or you can also hit them up on their website, askchapter.org/Ron to get started. I'll leave a link in the description down below this video if you want to go to their website, or if you want to call their phone number, I'll put that down below. But guys, we need all the help we can get nowadays. And here's the kicker. These changes, they're not only the beginning. Because coming up, we need to dig into what's really causing some of these massive delays. We're going to talk about who's calling it a horrifying collapse, and how the Donald Trump, Elon Musk team is navigating the Social Security time bomb that has been ticking since 1945. Trust me, guys, you do not want to miss this. So let's get real for a second, okay? You've probably already heard about the horror stories. You've probably lived some of these horror stories. You try to check your social security status online, and what happens? The website crashes, right? Or you dial their social security hotline and you're left on hold for 3 hours, right? If you're lucky. Or worse, maybe you can't even get an appointment at the local office for months. That's not a system. That is a joke. That is a circus, guys. And look, some of these aren't even isolated issues. This is happening nationwide, and it's not the fault of Elon Musk or President Trump. In fact, the mess is exactly why these individuals have stepped in. So, former SSA Commissioner Michael Astrew, he's a Republican who served under former President George W. Bush, George W. He also served under Barack Obama. He put it pretty bluntly. This is already horrifying, and it's going to get worse. Now, he says he's getting calls constantly from Americans who cannot access their benefits, not because there's no money, but because the agency has become too slow, too broken, too outdated to function. And if you've ever tried dealing with a broken government office, you know exactly what this means. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is where it gets real spicy. Critics are, including Astrew himself, they're saying President Trump, Elon Musk, they're cutting too deep. They're cutting too fast. They're doing too much. That's what they're saying. Now, I want you to drop me a quick 47 in the comments down below. If you trust what Donald Trump is doing, if you trust what the Doge Elon Musk led team is doing, drop me a quick 47 down in the comments if you have faith in what President Trump is doing. Now, if you disagree with what Elon Musk and President Trump are doing, drop a 46 in the comments. All right. Now, Trump, he said it pretty plainly. He said Washington is bloated. Elon Musk, he said for years that bureaucracy kills progress. And together with Doge, they're making one of the boldest pushes for government efficiency in U.S. history. And of course, there are growing pains. But let me ask you this. Is a 4-hour hold time waiting to speak to someone at the Social Security Administration progress? I don't think so. Is waiting 6 months for a benefits appointment the sign of a working system? Doubt it. Is pretending the agency isn't collapsing under its own weight going to help anyone? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be clear, guys. I don't think that this is about cruelty. I think it's about courage. And the critics, they keep repeating the same talking point that there's no data showing waste, that SSA fraud is under 0.01%, that this is just a slash and burn policy. But ladies and gentlemen, here's what they won't tell you. It's not about fraud. It's about survival. Now, of course, what we will talk about in just a second here, we're going to talk about this looming 2034 cliff that's coming up real fast. We're going to talk about this exploding retiree population, the shrinking workforce that's footing the bill, because let's be honest, it's the workers that are paying for the system to pay for the people who are not working anymore, for the retirees. And also how President Trump and Elon Musk, they may very well be the only ones bold enough and smart enough to face it before the whole dang thing blows up. Now, if you're just now joining the live, please take a second, hit the like button for me. I really appreciate your support. But stick with me, guys, because the real wake-up call is coming right up here. Now, I do understand where we are right now. You have to know really where all this started. So if we go back in time a little bit to 1935, the country was in the grip of the Great Depression. People were starving. There were food lines. Banks were closing. Banks were shutting down. Banks were collapsing. Layoffs were unbelievable. Unemployment rates were through the roof. You think the stock market right now is crashing? The stock market crashed like 70 or 80%. It was crazy. The Great Depression was absolutely crazy from what we've read and heard. And some of you may have actually either experienced the Great Depression yourself personally, or maybe your parents have. Now, seniors were dying in poverty. And in the middle of all of this, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, he launched what he called a safety net for the forgotten. That safety net became Social Security, which is a program built on a pretty big and bold promise. That safety net was supposed to essentially say that every working American would chip in a little bit of money every single paycheck, and one day they would be able to get something back when they needed it the most. Now, for a while, it worked really well. But here's the problem. People started living longer. They went from an average age of 63 years back then to 77 years old now. The workforce started getting smaller, started shrinking. Thanks to lower birth rates, people weren't having as many kids. The aging baby boomers retiring all at once. It was just like the worst of everything happening all at once. Today, Social Security is paying out over $1.6 trillion every single year. Social Security is paying out $1.6 trillion every single year to about 73 million Americans. And for over 40% of older Americans, this is their main or their only source of income. Now, if that money were to vanish overnight, 22 million Americans would suddenly fall below the poverty line. Now, guys, this is not just a policy issue. This is life or death for millions. So we got to talk about this ticking time bomb here. By 2033, or maybe 2034, if Congress doesn't do anything, Social Security will no longer be able to pay out full benefits. Now, I'm not saying no one's going to get a Social Security check. What I am saying is they will get a check, but they're going to have to cut that check by about 20%. So they'll get about 80% of what they're used to getting. That's devastating. That's like getting a negative 20% COLA deduction. Normally you get a COLA increase. It would be like a COLA reduction of 20%. That's huge. And that would be horrible. And while some politicians are pretty much dancing around the problem, President Trump has repeatedly warned about this very situation. Elon Musk even called Social Security a mathematical certainty heading toward collapse. He even called it a Ponzi scheme too, which it kind of is if you think about it sometimes. But anyway, I'm not trying to get into the politics there. But these guys are not fear-mongering. They are actually telling the truth. The media is ignoring it. Congress keeps kicking the can down the road. You got all sorts of congressmen. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, President Trump. I have a hard time seeing President Trump as a congressman or as a politician. I know he's a president, but I don't really see him as that. You got Tulsi Gabbard. You got the left. You got the right. You got Republicans. You got Democrats. And they all have their own point of view on this. You got Jasmine Crockett, who some people say Jasmine Crockett is going to be the leader of the Democratic Party. And if it ain't her, it's going to be AOC. I don't know what to think about that. But I think we've reached the point where someone has to step in, and President Trump's team has chosen action over more excuses and can kicking. So the next time somebody tries to tell you that these reforms are just too extreme, I want you to remind them what happens if we don't do anything. This is not just a ticking time bomb, guys, or a ticking time clock. This is a countdown to disaster for millions of families, and we cannot let this happen. And yet here we are with two of the most boldest reformers in the country, President Trump and Elon Musk, actually willing to face it. So of course we got to talk about what are the solutions to this. Like, what are they looking at doing to fix this thing? Should the retirement age go up? Let me ask you guys, do you think the retirement age should go up? Do you think high income earners will finally start paying their fair share? And what's the real danger if the trust fund is moved into the stock market? Do you think that that should happen? Do you think we should move the funds that are used to pay people's Social Security payments into the stock market? Or is that too risky? Or is that the smartest thing that we could possibly do, especially when you look at the long-term performance of the S&P 500 or maybe the NASDAQ? Well, stick around, because this right here that they're about to do here, it affects your wallet. It affects your future. It affects your retirement here. And this right here is the clock that the media doesn't want you watching. 2034, ladies and gentlemen. That's the year when Social Security funds run dry. It's not a conspiracy. It's not some fringe theory or whatever. It's the official estimate from the Social Security Administration itself. It doesn't get any more official than that. And if Congress doesn't do anything, well, what do you think is going to happen to your benefits? Or your parents' benefits? It's going to get cut by 20% across the board. Now, just imagine living on just 80% of what you're currently on right now. Now, for millions of people, that would mean, maybe not being able to make their rent or their mortgage payment. Some people have paid off houses. That's great. Some people won't be able to make their car payments. Some people have paid off cars. That's great. Some people won't be able to pay off their credit card bills. Some people are completely debt free. I get it. Everyone's in a different circumstance, but we have to understand that 80% of America living on Social Security, who's getting Social Security payments, are depending on Social Security as their primary income source. So we can't ignore the fact that it will affect a lot of people. And for decades, Washington insiders have known this problem was coming, and yet they didn't do anything. That's messed up. That's not even cool, right? But the real fixes they're politically unpopular, but they're mathematically unavoidable. And so they have to do something. So there are some ideas that are on the table right now. Number one, they could raise the Social Security tax rate. They could slightly reduce the benefits payment. In other words, they could slightly reduce how much people are getting paid from Social Security, which is the cut that I was talking about. They could raise the retirement age. Currently, as low as 62 years old. Can you imagine if they raise the retirement age to 70? I don't think that they'll do it, but they're talking about raising the retirement age. What do you think the retirement age should be? Let me know what you guys think on that one. Maybe, like, another option they're talking about is letting the trust fund invest in the stock market instead of just in the treasury bonds. Some people think it's a great idea. Others are saying this is a horrible idea. They could lift the income cap right now. Any income earned over $176,000 is not taxed by Social Security. And a lot of experts are in agreement that it's going to take a combination of these ideas in order to keep Social Security alive. But who has the guts to do it? That's the real question. Who's going to have the courage to pull this thing off? Is it President Trump? Is it going to be the next president? Somebody's got to do something. 2034 is real close around the corner. That's like 9 years away, guys. Because while Congress twiddles its thumbs and clings to these broken traditions, Trump's Doge team is already preparing America for what's about to happen. Trimming waste, they're forcing transparency, they're modernizing systems, and yes, of course, they're setting the stage for hard conversations and funding the future. Now, Elon Musk, he said it best. Sometimes systems just get so bloated that the only way to save them is to strip them down and to rebuild them. And Elon Musk is probably the king of doing this. He's done this so many different times with his different companies. And so Starlink, that was the company I was trying to remember. The internet company that Elon Musk created that is providing internet access to people in areas where internet access normally is not available. Anyway, of course, not everybody agrees with Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Some people say that the cuts have gone way too far. Some people say it's just total chaos. Some people even say that President Trump's reforms are dangerous. Well, ladies and gentlemen, coming up, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. We need to talk about, is this really reform or is this reckless dismantling? And what's the biggest thing that these critics just keep getting wrong? All right, so because everybody's cheering about change, but former Commissioner Michael Estrew, who, by the way, openly supported President Trump, he said that the current cuts feel like a massive meat axe approach, that they're random, they're just totally disorganized, they're damaging to progress, and honestly, he's not entirely wrong if you think about it, like if you're only looking at the short term. But here's where most of the critics fail, right? They're trapped in the old system. They're trapped in a system that was already failing tens of millions of Americans before Trump and Elon Musk even touched it. I think the truth of the matter is that what feels like chaos today is the price of long overdue change. Government agencies, they don't evolve gently. They evolve when leaders with guts shake the system. Trump is doing what no other president had the courage to do. Shrink a bloated bureaucracy. Force efficiency into a system that's relied on paper files and landlines for half a century. And also tap into the private sector of brilliance of people like Elon Musk, who's made a career out of doing the impossible. I don't know, guys. I don't know if this is reckless. It feels like it's more revolutionary than anything else. And so here's a final truth bomb. Yes, sure. Social Security is under intense scrutiny. Yes, Americans are feeling the shakeup. But if you're asking whether the system was working before these changes, the lines were too long. Calls were already getting dropped. The trust fund was already dying. All the different people, like illegal immigrants, getting Social Security benefits that they should not have gotten access to. Social Security fraud and scams, waste. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is not a new crisis. It's just finally being exposed. So now the question is this. Do we just keep on duct taping a collapsing system, or do we let real leaders do what needs to be done, even if it's a little uncomfortable? Because at the end of the day, this isn't really about politics. This is about my future, your family, our financial survival. I mean, we've been sounding the alarm for this whole video. But here's the kicker. All these issues, they're interconnected. So let's tie them all together, right? Public trust is collapsing. Why? Because service is worse, delays are up, and nobody seems to have any answers. Except someone finally does. President Trump and Elon Musk stepped in not to patch the old machine, but to rebuild or completely build a brand new one. And when people panic over short-term disruption, they end up missing the fact that long-term survival demands discomfort. And yes, Doge did cut 14% of SSA's workforce. But let's be real, guys. Many of those roles were like redundant and they were unneeded. They were holding back automation, cloud integration, and the tech-based improvements that we need. SSA now is leaner and they're better poised for transformation, and they're no longer stuck in the 1980s workflow models. Elon Musk, he doesn't do slow fixes. He does disruption with results. The SSA system has been falling apart and crumbling for years. Wait times, the tech outages, the inaccessibility. People on SSI and SSDI have been complaining for years. These are not side effects of Doge. They're the reason why Doge was created in the first place. So, also, the Trump-Elon Musk reform, they called it reckless. Do you guys think it's reckless? I mean, They say there's no proof of bloat. But let's break it down real quick. You got 7,000 job cuts, no effect on fraud numbers, faster restructuring with fewer people. That's not recklessness, guys. That is efficiency in action. So this entire operation is not about controlling people. It's about avoiding mass financial devastation when the trust fund dries up. If nothing changes, 80 million people are going to suffer. So the real question isn't why are they cutting? The real question is, why did no one fix this decades ago? So anyway, guys, drop me your thoughts on this one. I want to hear what you guys think. Are we moving in the right direction, or are we going in the wrong direction? Drop a 47 in the comments if you support what Trump and Elon Musk are doing with Social Security. Also, let me know if you think it's more likely that we get a $2,500 Doge dividend stimulus check or a $5,000 Doge dividend stimulus check. Let me know your thoughts on that one in the comments. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.